Hello, World Economic News for Friday, end of this week. Start with a chart because it's a pretty chart. It just so happens that it's the leverage at the investment banks of New York, 2003, 4, 5, 6, 7. Lehman, Bear, Merrill, Goldman and Morgan, and there's only Goldman and Morgan left. And the leverage levels are pretty similar to where they were back then. They're still asking for it. In fact, they're still demanding trouble. Right, this one I call the colourful chart from the New York Fed. It's about debt and how it's going. It always used to be going uppity up, and now it's not. And the world of the United States runs on debt. This will affect the US world. Yes. The Times Herald, unemployed 99ers take on the Capitol. That's 99ers, people are dropping off the end of the unemployment rolls. From the article, it is an emergency situation. The suicide rate among the unemployed is terrible, but everything is being kept hush-hush with the media. I've learned so much from my work with the 99ers. In Washington, I talked to a woman at the Labour and Industry Board who said every day they have to tell people that their 99 weeks are finished. There are over 25 million unemployed or underemployed people in the country. They don't even know the exact figure. The politicians are saying there's one job for every 4.6 people, but it seems more like there's one job for every 7 people. It's tough out there for an awful lot of people. MLive gives us Flint City Councilman Dale Weigel. Some on the council are willing to explore state takeover, municipal bankruptcy. Flint, Michigan, if the city doesn't receive the $20 million from the state it needs to stay afloat, some members of the city council are open to a state takeover or municipal bankruptcy. Okay, it's one of the worst places, but the worst, we know, have got this habit of going Pac-Man and going all over the place, and the worst becomes the norm. Speaking of worsts, Camden. With tax increases all but a certainty, Camden residents have urged city leaders to find creative ways to improve the city's financial situation while maintaining public safety and without crippling the taxpayers. Good luck on that. Actually, it's one of these bigger articles, 5-page jobs, and it's very interesting to find out in depth what's going on, and it just seems to be an impossible situation. Financial Times. Table du jour, World Food Price Menu, the latest food price watch link. The World Bank reports that its food price index climbed 15% between October and January, driven largely by increases in the price of sugar, 20%, fats and oils, 22%, and maize, 12%. That was between October and January. And the whole thing's worth reading, but I've pulled these things off mainly just to show it's quite interesting. They've got calorie share in there as a percentage, and for Tajikistan, for instance, the calorie share in their of their diet coming from wheat is 54%. Over half of their calories come from wheat, and it's up 37%. Azerbaijan, similar, 57% of their calories coming from wheat, and it's up 24%. It's a longer list, this, if you follow the link. I've just cut this off the top. On rice, on the right-hand side of the list there, 59% of calorie share in Vietnam comes from rice, and it's up 46%. 70% of calorie count in Bangladesh comes from rice, and it's up 19%. Half of the calorie count in Indonesia comes from rice, and it's up 19%. 65% calorie count in Cambodia, but they are all right. Their weather must have just fallen nice for them, and the price of rice is down 11. So it's not right across the board. It's quite country specific, but specifically quite a lot of countries, the price of calories is going up. Wall Street Journal, Borders bankruptcy, what went wrong? It's just buggy whips, isn't it? I mean, it just went out of date, quite frankly. If you read the article, they did a few things that were just wrong, but coming up against something like Amazon, the wrong place at the wrong time. But they employed a lot of people. Amazon don't. Alphaville again. Moody's puts Antipodean banks on review. That's all I'm going to read of that. Fresh from Moody's, a threat to bank downgrades down under. Things aren't perfect down under, and if they have a sort of housing crash, it will put their banks under more pressure. They're better than most, but Moody's are just saying, hey boys, watch it. Same, Alphaville, Armageddon Bank. Now we're in Denmark. The Armageddon Banken, something like that anyway, is a small bank in Denmark, but its failure could end up having big consequences for investors in bank debt. It might end up being a relatively rare instance of bank senior unsecured investors and depositors taking a hit because they've just run out of money and they're just not paying out. I think that is the bank I referred to about a week ago, where senior bondholders are taking a zzz, and it's one of those things. Is it big enough to really rattle the market? We don't know yet. This is from the first place where the link number one, that's why link number one's repeated, but it seems best to put it in here, as the Danish depositors were taking a hit along with the senior bank bondholders, where we note that FDIC, so we're back in the United States, banks have about $5.4 trillion insured by the FDIC. Deposits in US banks covered by FDIC, about $5.4 trillion. Trillion dollars, 5.4, insured by the FDIC. This next chart, don't know what number it's going to be, 9B, something like that. Deposit Insurance Fund balance as insured. This is FDIC's books and how they're doing, because they've been bailing out quite a lot lately, and at the moment they are 8,000 million and nine, just over $8 billion in the red. So you've got $5.4 trillion of bank deposits insured by an outfit that is $8 billion in the red. That should work out well, shouldn't it? You should really have faith in the full credit of FDIC. Of course, it's nonsense. North Sea on-year output dives. North Sea oil output will fall by 8.6% in March from a year earlier, illustrating the gradual drop in supply from the home of the Brent benchmark used to value 2/3 of the world's oil. So that's more what I was brought that out for. Brent apparently is now the base price for 2/3 of the world's oil, as opposed to WTI, which is obviously a lot smaller than that. But then you've got that 8.6 drop in North Sea oil output, which is about average for offshore declines when the decline sets in. And 8.6 year over year over year, you soon go over the peak and down the hill very quickly. Last article, Grigor, US, this is United States natural gas production in 2010 was just 1 month, with 1 month of data still due to be delivered, is set to nearly match the all-time highs seen in the early 1970s. That chart below, you can see the gas supply coming up to a peak in the 70s, and it's effectively been a bit flat. It's dipped down, but it's getting back to where it was in the 70s. Interesting. And the idea is it should really take up off from here, but it might not. He finishes with a decent paragraph in the article. The same analytical error that I made in 2007, that was to bet that gas price would go up, or at least the ratio to BTUs pro oil would reduce. You've got to read the article. That the price spread to oil would force a more rapid natural gas adoption in the United States is made now routinely in investment circles. In other words, the investors are making the same mistake that he made 4 years ago. But the problem of energy transition is a problem of the built environment. Europe and Japan are in a position to uptake more natural gas, as their transport sectors also run on that sort of power. The United States, however, is not. A revolution, not a thoughtful and slow transition, would be required to shift the gargantuan BTU the the US uses on oil over to natural gas, BTU, British Thermal Units, just equivalenting everything there. In other words, the US is absolutely plugged into oil, and it just can't be asked, can't be bothered to go over to natural gas. I'll make an easy prediction, Grigor says. Exports of liquid natural gas volumes from both Sabine Pass in Louisiana and from Kitimat, British Columbia, will be well underway before the United States, either through public policy or the free market, has transitioned to any meaningful new demand for natural gas. In other words, they'll be shipping it out of the country before the United States gets its act together to start using it itself, weaning itself off oil. And I'm sure Grigor's right. For some reason, unless the comfortable have to do something, they don't do it. And the US at the moment is too damn comfortable. Bon weekend. Bye.